Roll for initiative. Okay, George Lucas, you're first, then Jeremy Irons. What do you want to do, George? I'd like to copy a lot of the things I've done before and also a lot of the things other people have done before. So I'll roll a sleight of hand check to see if I can slip that past the audience for 12. With 12, yeah, that works, but it'll only work on people who saw it in their youth around the years of its release. You make 10 million gold pieces. Jeremy, your turn. I chew the scenery. Gonna need a roll there, Jeremy. How about a performance check? A natural one. Yeah, the crowd is getting up and leaving the theater. You lose 30 million gold pieces, and your party has all died. We watched Willow and Dungeons and Dragons.
The French champagne.
Can you tell me which members of the Reservoir Dogs you two are currently dressed as?
I'm Mr. Pink.
Sis Blue.
So Miranda hasn't seen Reservoir Dogs.
Secret Nazis.
Yeah.
Secret Nazis.
Classic.
Classic Spielberg.
Classic Spielberg.
He needs to kill 94 different 65-year-old men over 2.5 years because those men's children are all identical clones of Adolf Hitler.
There's like a bunch of other shit that happens in Driven.
Is there?
Shake it. Shake it.
The schlocky movie from this week may be the schlockiest film we've ever seen on this podcast.
The Citizen Kane of the week is...
Yay!
That's so appropriate, Sean. Thank you. My first question, this isn't like, I'm jumping the gun because I have a really important question, and then I'm going to introduce us, which is, why is Jeremy Irons? I realized watching this movie that I know he did Scar in The Lion King, right? Like, I know that's like kind of almost his biggest thing that I know him for. I know him from this. I know him from the terrible Assassin's Creed movies. I know he played.
Yeah.
I know he played Alfred in the bad DC stuff recently. Why?
Dead Ringers. Dead Ringers was one of those movies in I want to say the late 80s, early 90s. I think he plays like twins or something that like reverse places and do like bad things. So I think that was one of his like breakout roles that he was really like, oh, that's a really good movie. Ooh, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
he also did Lolita, which is a movie he did in like the early 90s where he has sex with a 14-year-old girl for an hour and a half or something.
Yeah, I mean that's the novel. Lolita podcast, check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another podcast. So it's just
Is
a
that really
thing
a
where
podcast?
I mean, no.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Is it really?
It is. Yeah, no.
Wait,
Someone dissects the Lolita like myth that has been perpetrated because of like how young girls are portrayed in that book. It's fascinating.
that actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, but I really don't want to follow them on any social media, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So please don't, Sean. So, okay, but there are movies that Jeremy Irons did at one point that made him a celebrity, because I realized I just don't know why he is one. I don't know why.
He's also a classically trained actor.
Sure.
Okay, you continue. I'll look up Jeremy Irons' filmography and I'll tell you if anything pops out.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for letting me to quickly ask that question. Welcome, everyone, to Citizen Kane Versus, where we compare a movie that is considered to be more of a classic with a movie that is more on the schlocky side, and we ask ourselves honestly, which is better. My name is Jack Rennie, and I'm joined by my two friends, a one,
Sean Jacklin,
and the other,
Daniel Benoit.
Okay.
wow.
All right.
What sound effects are going in there? Is there another theme song?
No, nothing. I like pause for effect. I think that one is one of my strongest ones so far, actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
Shut up, Sean.
I mean, yeah. We'll keep
Yeah.
working on it. Let's keep playing and see what comes into the room.
Hate you
But
both.
and, the movies we watched, pitched by me, were a little foray into what I would have said was fantasy. And honestly, having watched them, I can't say, I don't know where they fit. They somewhere around
they're fantasy.
fantasy.
They're definitely fantasy.
They're definitely fantasy.
But they're pre Lord of the Rings fantasy is what they are.
Pre Lord of the, that's so true, eh?
Yeah.
But yeah, Willow and Dungeons and Dragons. Not a lot of time between them, I admit. But I don't think that really matters because Willow has become a classic in I think in many circles, and Dungeons and Dragons is definitely
a movie
that
Yeah.
somehow was made.
In the past few years, it actually made the top 50 list of worst films ever made. So like a classic in its own right, you could
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Like that's notoriety.
So do you want Jeremy Irons here?
Yeah, real quick. Hit
Okay,
me with
yeah,
it.
real quick. So Dead Ringers, 1988, the one I mentioned. He's also he had a few things before that. Nothing that probably leaps to mind. He is in Spaceship Earth and The Lion King, both 1994. Die Hard with a Vengeance as Simon Gruber, 1995.
Oh yeah.
Stealing
shit.
Beauty, another pretty good film. The Man in the Iron Mask. And then Dungeons and Dragons comes in right after that, and then we enter into I think the period you're referring to where he appears in things and is Jeremy Irons.
Yeah. Man in the Iron Mask, I think, is probably one of the big ones that cemented him as like a person. He was
Wait, but this was the next movie he did after The Man in the Iron Mask?
I'd say the next like big he did Fairies and then Poseidon's Fury, Escape from the Lost City, where he played Poseidon, and then Dungeons and Dragons comes right after that. So 1998 Man in the Iron Mask, 2000 Dungeon et Dragon.
Oh man.
Right, because this movie was I honestly, it
2000,
blew my
bud.
mind when I saw that this movie was 21 years old. Because I remember when it came out. I remember seeing it as a kid. I didn't see it when it came out, but I remember seeing previews for it and thinking that it might be a fun movie to watch. And then, of course, I never watched it because at that point I didn't know what D&D was, and I hated everyone who played it.
Yeah.
Hey,
But I saw this movie in theaters, I think I mentioned.
you did, yeah.
I remember seeing it and I remember coming out of it.
Tell us the story of young Jack, 10 years old.
Well, young Jack, I used to go see movies with my dad, and that led to all kinds of weird circumstances of just seeing random stuff because we'd go, I think, most weekends, and seeing things, unfortunately, like Scary Movie together in theaters.
Classic
Oh,
fun
no.
film.
That was weird. I was probably around 12.
Lolita was also a weird one, right?
That was a weird one.
Yeah.
Tell me
I
about
saw
it.
that movie with my mom and my sister when I was like
What?
7 years old. Yeah, when that movie was
Oh,
fresh
no.
on VHS. I saw that movie with that's
was-
the only reason why I know what it is.
This is what, shortly after or shortly before she took you to see South Park, the movie?
Oh, it was years before that, man.
Years before. So she took
This
you to
is-
see Lolita, and she was like, "Oh, that can never happen again. Only animated features after this."
No, we
And then
didn't.
she
We
was
didn't
like,
go see it.
"Ay."
We didn't go see it in theaters. Lolita. My mom rented it to watch at home.
A nice wholesome movie for the kids.
That's okay. I was I snuck into watching that Howard Stern movie when I was a kid,
Oh, I'm sorry.
which had nudity and stuff in
he
it.
had a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, called like Dirty something.
Dirty
Dirty
man.
parts.
Dirty man.
Dirty
parts. Sexy
dirty
parts.
Yeah.
Private parts. Anyways,
Private,
Might have been-
private,
it might have been private parts.
Actually, I think it is private parts.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking it up.
Don't look it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this was one of the movies that we went to see, and I was gonna say I remember even then coming out of it and being like, "Huh, you know, it's
So
it's
those
one of
are
those,
boobs.
yeah,
Wait, are we talking
Maybe-
about Howard Stern still or this D&D?
D&D.
Right. Okay. So
Also
then
filled with boobs.
disregard my last comment.
No, not that. Yeah, because this was definitely a movie, Dungeons and Dragons, that cut really well for like a trailer that kids would think like cool,
Yeah.
and then you see it and it's like what?
Woo.
Contrarily, we owned Willow on VHS, and I watched that movie all the time, and somehow
See.
like didn't have nightmares all the time.
Yeah, bizarre. Like truly, I've never seen Willow. I somehow managed to not see it when I was young, and yeah, it's definitely full of terror
Yeah,
and terrible things.
I'm gonna be so interested to talk to this movie as someone who has just seen it for the first time, like at 30. I really can't wait through so much of this conversation to come. The other thing that I wanted to mention, so I found also looking up some stuff about Willow. About Dungeons and Dragons, and the connections that happened with this. So this movie, as you may have also seen, had a budget of $45 million somehow.
Which blew my brain apart.
Yeah, where
when
did
I
it go?
saw that number.
Who was siphoning that money?
Probably Jeremy Irons and the
Probably
CGI.
The CGI.
The
Yeah.
really, really good CGI.
Oh god.
The yeah. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, but it only made back made back less than 34 million back at the box office, so it was a pretty big bomb.
It made like 15, I think.
It said like 34.
Oh,
is what this
34?
said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Who knows? So it said, and then I found this little blurb, and it said a majority of studios and directors loved the screenplay. They said,
Yeah.
but turned away due to a recent history of big budget box office failures in the fantasy genre, such as Willow, boom, Krull, and Dragonheart.
Dragonheart. Yeah.
And Justin Whalen's lack of star power. That's the lead of D&D.
We'll get to that. Whew.
And anyway, it goes on, and it says how like James Cameron was almost attached.
There
Francis
were so
Ford
many
Coppola
directors.
was almost attached. Can you imagine?
Well,
But
okay,
then the guy who no, you hang up.
I will hang up, and I will say after I hang up the phone, I will say that the producer, you probably found this too, Jack, because I think it sounds like we read the same things, is Canadian. He's from Toronto.
Yep.
And this is his production company, and it's still going. I forget what it's called now.
Sweet Pea
Productions.
Yep.
And yeah, like the budget had to go into the CG and Jeremy Irons. This was his like pet project, and he flew everyone to the Czech Republic to do all the shoots. And yeah, like.
But I also
necessary.
read that he kind of got like stuck in the position of directing because when all the other people fell through, he was the one who was like the most closely attached to the project, so he felt obligated to do it.
Like, yes, but there was also a quote of him saying he felt like not compelled in the like I was forced to, but compelled internally. He had something in him that when all these dominoes fell, he was like, I must direct this project. This is the sign. And then after the film flopped, there were all these quotes of him being like, I didn't want to do it in the first place. So,
Yeah, and he was also like, probably one of the reasons why this movie was so bad is because I'm not a good filmmaker.
Yeah. Anywho,
He's like, so I've noticed that some directors, they move the camera as people are doing stuff. Can you tell me more about that? Like, that's what I feel like day one was like. The Citizen Kane of the week is